The train slid into the city like a silver serpent cutting through fog, its windows flashing brief reflections of neon light and tired faces. Inside, Amelia sat alone by the window, clutching a worn leather notebook. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from the quiet panic that comes with starting over. She was 23, freshly out of a small coastal town that had never truly seen her. The city's skyline had always glimmered in her dreams like a promise, whispering of freedom, recognition, and reinvention. Her father had told her she was foolish to go. "The city eats people like you," he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "It makes promises it never keeps." But Amelia had smiled, kissed his cheek, and left anyway. Because sometimes you have to chase something even if you're not sure it exists. The first thing she noticed when she arrived was the noise. The city never slept. It hummed and roared and whispered all at once. Cars honked, strangers shouted, advertisements screamed from glowing screens. It was chaotic, yet it felt alive. To Amelia, that chaos felt like music. She rented a room in a crumbling apartment above a laundromat. The ceiling leaked when it rained, and the radiator made a noise like a dying animal. But the window overlooked the street, where people passed every hour of the day. She spent her first week sitting by that window, watching stories unfold in the crowd below. By day, she searched for auditions, cafe jobs, modeling gigs, anything that would bring her closer to the world she dreamed of. By night, she wrote in her notebook. Not poetry, not diary entries, just fragments of her thoughts. "I think I'm supposed to be someone," one line read. "I just don't know who yet." Her first real opportunity came from a casting call flyer taped to a street lamp. Independent film seeking lead actress. No experience required. Amelia almost didn't go, but something in her whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the door she'd been waiting for. The audition was held in a basement studio lit by fluorescent bulbs. There were 10 other girls, each prettier, taller, more confident. Amelia sat quietly, trying to make herself invisible. When her turn came, the director barely looked up from his phone. "Name," he said. "Amelia Brooks." "Okay, you're nervous. You've just lost someone. You're trying not to cry. Go." It was an impossible prompt. But as she stood under the harsh light, something cracked open inside her. She thought of leaving home, of her father's face when she said goodbye, of the loneliness that clung to her since she stepped off the train. Tears welled in her eyes, not because she forced them, but because they were real. When she finished, the room was silent. The director looked up finally, his expression unreadable. "Thank you," he said softly. "We'll call you." Amelia laughed, sure she had failed. But 2 days later, her phone buzzed. She got the part. The film was small, funded by a local art collective. They shot in abandoned buildings and borrowed apartments. The director, Julian, was young but intense, his eyes sharp, his voice calm. He treated Amelia like she was made of glass, as if he saw something fragile and luminous in her that even she didn't. "Don't act," he told her during a scene. "Just be." And she was. She let herself bleed into the role, a girl lost in a city, searching for love in empty places. It didn't feel like fiction. It felt like confession. When the movie premiered at a local film festival, it didn't draw a huge crowd. But the few who watched couldn't forget her. Her face lingered in the audience's minds long after the credits ended. A critic wrote, "There's something haunting about the newcomer, Amelia Brooks. She doesn't perform, she reveals." That line changed everything. Soon, agents began calling. Casting directors wanted to meet. Her name started appearing in conversations she wasn't part of. And though she still lived in the same tiny apartment, something inside her shifted. She could feel the city starting to notice her. One night, Julian invited her to a rooftop party full of producers, writers, and actors. It was her first glimpse into the world she thought she wanted. Laughter, champagne, stories told through smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Everyone was performing, even when the cameras weren't there. A man in a gray suit approached her. "You're the girl from the Hollow City, right?" he asked. "Yes," she said, surprised. "You've got something," he said, his gaze lingering too long. "Something raw. Don't lose that. Hollywood loves to polish people until they stop shining." It sounded like advice, but it felt like a warning. After that night, her days blurred into a rhythm of auditions, photo shoots, meetings. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Yet, the more attention she got, the more distant she felt from herself. She stopped writing in her notebook. She didn't have time to sit by the window anymore. When her second film wrapped, it was already generating online buzz. Fans created pages in her name. Strangers commented on her beauty, her innocent eyes, her realness. But with every headline, every photo, every interview, Amelia felt a piece of her quiet self fading. Fame came not as a roar, but as a slow flood. And once it started rising, she couldn't tell where to stand to keep from drowning. One evening, as the city lights flickered like distant stars, Amelia stood before a mirror in her new apartment. Larger, cleaner, lonelier. Her reflection stared back. Perfect hair, flawless makeup, a stranger's smile. She whispered, "Who are you?" But the girl in the mirror didn't answer. The morning after the film's release, Amelia woke to hundreds of unread messages. Her social media feed was a blur of congratulations, praise, fan art, and comments dissecting her every expression, outfit, and word. For a moment, she felt dizzy. The world finally saw her. The dream she had chased through sleepless nights and empty pockets was no longer just hers. It belonged to millions of strangers now. At first, she answered every message, liked every post, smiled through every interview. "It's surreal," she'd tell reporters. "I'm so grateful." And she meant it. But gratitude slowly turned into performance. She started saying what people wanted to hear, wearing what stylists picked, posting what publicists suggested. Every smile was curated, every word rehearsed. Her days were scheduled down to the minute. Meetings, fittings, photo shoots, interviews. The calendar on her phone became her new religion. She moved from one event to another, applauded by people who didn't know her name last year. But when the lights went off, silence followed her home like a shadow. She would lie in bed scrolling through her own tagged photos, searching for herself in the digital chaos. The girl who had once sat by the laundromat window with a notebook now stared at filtered versions of her face under comments like, "She's perfect," or "She's losing her spark." Both were lies, and she couldn't tell which hurt more. Julian, her first director, called one evening. "You've changed," he said gently. "Isn't that the point?" She replied, laughing it off. "Not if you forget why you started," he said. His words lingered long after the call ended. Amelia told herself she was fine. She was successful, admired, envied. But deep inside, something ached. The more the world celebrated her, the less she recognized her own reflection. Then came the Eclipse Project, a major studio film that could make her a household name. It was a sci-fi drama with a multi-million-dollar budget, the kind of production she dreamed of. The script was cold but ambitious, and the director, Daniel Cole, was known for turning rising stars into legends. When she read the offer, her heart raced. This was it, the breakthrough. Filming began in a desert outside Los Angeles. The heat was unbearable, the schedule relentless. Daniel was brilliant but demanding. He pushed her past exhaustion, insisting on emotional authenticity even when she had nothing left to give. "Pain looks beautiful on camera," he'd say. "Don't hide it." Amelia tried to believe that this suffering was the price of greatness. But every night, when she returned to her trailer, she would collapse onto the floor, trembling, her face streaked with tears and sand. During one scene, she fainted under the blazing sun. The crew rushed to help, but Daniel only clapped once and said, "That's the shot we'll use." When she saw the playback later, she didn't see herself, only a shell. A body performing pain until it became real. The movie wrapped after 4 brutal months. The premiere was a spectacle: red carpets, camera flashes, designer gowns. The critics hailed her as fearless, mesmerizing, the new face of realism in cinema. Her image appeared on billboards, magazine covers, and streaming platforms across the world. She had finally become what she dreamed of, a star, but the applause didn't fill the silence inside her. Her father called after reading an article about her success. "You did it," he said proudly. "Yeah," she whispered, tears welling. "I did." But when she hung up, she felt smaller than ever. Success was supposed to make her feel alive, but it only magnified the emptiness. She couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed without cameras nearby, or spoken without filtering her thoughts for quotes. She began to withdraw. Parties felt meaningless, premieres exhausting. She avoided mirrors. Her friends, the few she had left, stopped calling after she canceled on them too many times. The city that once pulsed with possibility now felt like a machine built to consume her. One night, she wandered the streets alone, wearing a hood to hide her face. The rain blurred the lights into streaks of color. She stopped by a small cafe, the kind she used to visit when she was nobody. Inside, a young woman played guitar softly while a few people sipped coffee and talked. No one recognized her. No one cared. She sat by the window and watched the rain slide down the glass. For the first time in months, she felt invisible, and strangely, it felt like peace that an old man at the next table smiled at her. "Rough night?" he asked kindly. She hesitated, then nodded. "Fame is a strange thing," he said, as if reading her mind. "Everyone wants to be seen, until they realize being seen means losing your skin." His words cut deep. She wanted to tell him everything: the fear, the exhaustion, the loneliness, but all she managed was a quiet, "Thank you." That night, she went home and dug through her closet until she found her old leather notebook. It smelled faintly of dust and memory. She opened it to a blank page and began to write again. The words came out messy, uneven, raw. "I thought success would make me whole, but I traded pieces of myself for approval. I became a reflection instead of a person." She wrote until dawn, until her eyes burned and her hand cramped. And when she stopped, she felt lighter. For the first time in years, she wasn't writing for anyone else, just for her. The next day, she called Julian. "I want to make something real again," she said. "Then come by," he replied. "Let's start over." They met at the same basement studio where she'd first auditioned years ago. The walls were peeling, the floor creaked, and the light flickered, but to her, it felt like coming home. Julian listened quietly as she talked about everything that had happened: the fame, the fear, the emptiness. "You don't need to prove anything anymore," he said. "You've already been seen. Now it's time to be known." Those words stayed with her. They began working on a small project together, a quiet, intimate film about a woman rediscovering her voice after losing herself to fame. It was fiction, but everyone knew it wasn't. Amelia poured her heart into it, raw and unfiltered. No makeup artists, no stylists, no PR teams. Just her, a camera, and the truth. When the short film was released online, it didn't trend. It didn't make headlines, but it reached people who needed it. Comments flooded in, not from fans, but from strangers who said, "I feel this. I've been there. Thank you." And for once, the attention didn't feel heavy. It felt human. Amelia realized that the dream she chased wasn't about fame or perfection. It was about connection. The same connection she felt that night in the cafe or years ago by the laundromat window. The same quiet ache that made her write in the first place. Still, the world didn't let go easily. Offers poured in again, bigger, flashier, more lucrative. Her agent begged her to take them. "This is your moment," he said. But Amelia just smiled. "I've already had my moment," she replied. "Now I want my life." The rain didn't stop that night. It fell in relentless sheets, hammering against the cracked windows of the abandoned motel where Ethan had taken shelter. The neon sign outside flickered, half dead, spelling only OTL. He stared at it through the grime-streaked glass, his reflection fractured in the broken pane. The man staring back was a ghost of who he used to be. Eyes hollow, hands trembling. Dreams buried somewhere beneath exhaustion and regret. That it had been months since he left the city. Months since the company collapsed and the betrayal unraveled everything he built. The empire he thought would outlast him was now a smoldering ruin. His name dragged through headlines like a curse. He once believed success could protect him, that money and influence could fill the empty spaces inside. Now, with nothing left but silence and the smell of mildew, he finally saw how wrong he had been. He lit another cigarette. The smoke curled toward the ceiling, vanishing into the darkness. Every drag felt like an echo of the life he lost. His father's voice, his sister's laughter, the clinking of glasses in bright, busy rooms. All gone. All traded away for something that turned to dust the moment he touched it. The faint knock echoed from the door. Ethan froze, his breath catching. For a second, he thought it might be the wind. But then came another knock, too, soft, hesitant. He hesitated, heart pounding, then pulled the door open. It was Maya. She stood there in the rain, her coat soaked, eyes red but steady. Her presence hit him like a memory he'd been running from. The last time he saw her was the day everything fell apart, when she walked away, saying she couldn't follow him down the road he'd chosen. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. He stepped aside. The room seemed smaller with her in it, the air heavier. She set her bag down, wringing water from her hair, and looked around. "You've really disappeared," she said. "No phone. No messages. I had to ask half the city to find you." "I didn't want to be found," he muttered. "I figured." Silence hung between them. The only sound was the rain and the faint hum of the broken neon outside. Ethan finally looked at her, really looked. She hadn't changed much, still that quiet strength, that same gaze that could strip away his defenses. "I read what they said about you," she said finally. "That you stole from your own company. That you ruined people's lives." He flinched. "They're not wrong." Her eyes softened. "I don't believe that." He gave a bitter laugh. "Then you're one of the few." Maya took a step closer. "I didn't come to judge you, Ethan. I came because I think you've punished yourself enough." He stared at her, trying to find words. None came. The truth was, he didn't even know why he was still alive. Every day since the collapse had felt like walking through a graveyard of his own making. "Why now?" he asked. "Why come back?" "Because you once told me dreams don't die. They just wait for someone brave enough to rebuild them." She paused, her eyes glistening. "You were that person once. You still can be." He looked away. "It's too late for that." "No," she whispered. "It's not." She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn folder. Inside were blueprints, sketches, his old designs for the sustainable housing project they once dreamed of building together. Before the company swallowed everything pure about their vision. "I kept these," she said. "I couldn't let them vanish." Ethan's breath caught. He touched the papers, his fingers trembling. Every line, every note. It was like touching a forgotten part of himself. "I've been working on it again," Maya continued. "Small scale. Community funded. It's nothing like what we planned, but it's real. And it's growing. I want you to help me finish it." He shook his head. "Maya, I can't. You don't understand. People lost everything because of me. I can't just walk back like none of that happened." She stepped closer, voice steady. "You don't fix the past by hiding from it. You fix it by doing something better." He stared at her, the rain pounding harder outside, the world feeling as if it was waiting for his answer. For the first time in years, something sparked in his chest, a fragile, almost painful flicker of hope. "Why do you still believe in me?" he asked softly. "Because I saw who you were before the noise," she said. "Before the world convinced you that you had to be ruthless to matter." He felt his throat tighten. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with trembling hands, he gathered the papers and set them on the table. "Where do we start?" Maya smiled, a small, tired, but genuine smile. "Tomorrow. The old district. We're rebuilding one of the abandoned complexes there." He nodded slowly, staring at the sketches. The storm outside began to fade, the neon light flickering less violently now. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. Weeks later, the old district buzzed with life again. Volunteers hammered, painted, rebuilt. Ethan stood among them, hands dirty, sweat dripping down his forehead, and for once, he didn't care how he looked. He wasn't the man in the glass towers anymore. He wasn't the name in the headlines. He was just a man with a purpose. Maya worked beside him, her laughter cutting through the noise of hammers and saws. The project was growing faster than either of them imagined. Word spread, and soon, people who'd lost faith in him began to show up, some out of curiosity, others out of forgiveness. One evening, as the sun set behind the half-restored buildings, Ethan climbed to the roof of one. From up there, the view stretched far, beyond the ruined cityscape, beyond the smoke and dust. For the first time, he didn't see destruction. He saw rebirth. Maya joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "Looks different from up here, doesn't it?" "Yeah," he said softly. "It does." She looked at him for a moment. "Do you ever miss it?" "The old life." He thought about it. The suits, the power, the illusion of control. Then he shook his head. "No, that wasn't life. That was noise." They stood there quietly as the last light faded, the city slowly reclaiming itself piece by piece. Ethan realized that sometimes the greatest redemption isn't in erasing your past. It's in building something good from the ashes of it. He turned to Maya, a faint smile on his face. "You were right," he said. "Dreams don't die." She smiled back. "They just wait." And for the first time in a long time, Ethan believed it.